Hello, everybody. Just wanted to welcome you to the first episode of the first part of the mini series that I'm doing about the decomposition of Little Blue 2. Even though I'm no longer currently living full time in her, I thought I would go ahead and show the various systems and try to help new vanners based on my own experiences living in this van for about 9 months. The first thing that I'd like to talk about today is staying cool. Okay, summer's about to get here and temperatures are starting to go up. Right now the temperature is reading 91 degrees here Fahrenheit on my thermometer, and that's actually going down. When I first opened up the vehicle, it was about 96 to 98 degrees or more. And the reason it's dropping right now is, as you can see, I've got all the windows and doors opened. And I have the sunshade up front here. The temperature outside right now is approximately 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And inside the vehicle, it was probably about 98 degrees when I first got here. That's a temperature difference of 20 degrees. Typically in a sealed vehicle in Florida, the temperature can go like so hot that you could pretty much cook in it. I know that in this vehicle particularly, it can jump up on average between 15 to 30 or 40 degrees difference between what the temperature is inside the vehicle and what it is outside. And the reason for that is basically, if you think about it, a van or a vehicle is like a greenhouse. So all the windows and stuff with glass on it will let heat in, radiation heat come into the vehicle. And if your vehicle is closed off, it actually retains that heat, that temperature coming in, and lets more and more heat in, causing the vehicle to get hotter and hotter inside. So a lot of people who are new to vanning or trying to live in their van, this is a very big issue, trying to stay cool, okay? So I started living in the van in August in Florida, which is actually one of the hotter months. It starts getting hot here in Florida roughly around June, July, maybe even May, like near the end of May, June, July, August, September, October. It is like so hot and miserable. We typically get temperatures upwards of like 80s and 90s around here. So if it's like 80 or 90 degrees outside in Florida, then it's probably going to get like over 100 to 120 or maybe even 130 degrees or more inside your vehicle if you have it sealed up. But as you can see, as we're talking here, the temperature right now says 92 degrees. So it is starting to drop. I don't know how much it'll drop here. In theory, it should drop down eventually to about 78 degrees, which is what the ambient temperature is out here. But what I want to talk about is basically to stay cool. These are my tips, okay? If you are able to park in a place such as this, like if you're in Florida, you're fortunate because, well, it depends on what part of Florida. But if you're in an area that has like one of the causeways, like here, I'm not actually at the Melbourne Causeway, I'm at a park before the causeway. But if you can park by water, okay, water tends to cool air down. When the wind blows across water, it actually cools the air down. So the air that would blow into your vehicle is actually a little bit cooler than normal dry, hot air. So if you can park your vehicle, and in this case the wind is blowing this way, it's blowing this way, I've got my vehicle opened up so the wind will actually blow through. Now, when it does that, I'm actually getting a cool breeze to blow through my vehicle and blow out all the hot air. And if you're just sitting around at basically at a park or something by the water, by the causeway, it's actually pretty cool. Even though my vehicle says it's hot, right now it says it's like 90 degrees. I don't know if my sensor's wrong, but it still says 92, even though it doesn't feel like it in here. I wonder if the sensor went bad. I don't know. But it actually feels pretty comfortable in here right now. And the reason for that is I've got the breeze blowing through. Now, as far as trying to get your vehicle so that it doesn't get so hot, these are going to be my tips based on what worked for me and what didn't. Okay, the first thing that I think that is important, okay, the most important probably, is having a fan. At least one fan that you can use, like a 12-volt fan like this one here at night that's hooked up to your battery system here. My house battery's, I don't know if it's shot or what for me not using it, or I might have ran it too long the other night. Now the fan will still work, I think, because it's 12 volts. See that? I can turn it on, and I can turn it off. Okay, so it's running off the house battery system, which we'll talk about later in a episode about how I hook up the house battery and how you can do it too. But for now, know that a fan like this can be bought at like Walmart for about 10 to 12 bucks. And it uses 0.08 amps. No, it uses 0.8 amps. So it uses like less than an amp, okay, to run it. That means I can run this all night off my 35 amp hour battery. And then I just need to charge that unit the next day. I have this one fan here, and I have one in the back, which I seldom use, but I have used it before if I needed 2 fans. And believe it or not, that alone is enough for me to sleep in the vehicle at night. Now, I do several other things that make it a lot cooler. And the first is this. My rear windows have this mosquito netting that I have put in. And let me show you how that was done. Both windows. See, I wanted my vehicle stealth, so it looks like normal. But if you take a good look, you're going to find that it actually has mosquito netting on the rear windows. So it goes all the way underneath and everything. That's to keep mosquitoes out and bugs and whatnot. And how I did this was I basically bought a mosquito netting from Walmart, and I put magnets around the edge of the window frame here to hold it in place. Then I cut the netting about 2.5 inches larger than my window frame, just like that. I cut all around, okay? Then I folded the inside in underneath the window, you know, like where, like the 2 inches that was sticking out, I folded it inside, and I used glue. Now, I had used this stuff called like Goop, or I don't know if it's Goop or whatever, but it's E90 or E60, whatever that super glue thing was at Walmart's craft section. It was supposed to dry clear. I don't recommend that, because as you can see, it did dry clear, but now 9 months later, a year later, it's kind of brownish yellow. I would reuse that black silicone stuff next time so that it stays black. Okay, so what I did was I flipped the flap over here that I made larger, like about 1 inch or 2 larger than this window, and you know, trim the little corners and stuff if you need to, like just cut right there so that it can fold up, and trim that and let it get dry. Okay, then once I did that, and I had the window pretty much glued on the other side, right? So it looked like the netting was all on the outside, but that's not what we want, right? We wanted to cover the gap. Then what I did was I cut on the inside. Once this glue on the back side was dry, you know, on the inside was dry, I cut with a scissor. I cut like about this much, probably about, I want to say about 3 or 4 inches on the inside. I cut like this on the inside, all around the entire unit. That's what I did. I cut all along here. So now I had a flap that was about 3 or 4 inches or so of mosquito netting, and then of course I trimmed, cut a line in the corner or whatever so I can fold it out, and I flipped it over. You know, I flipped it over, and then I took the other side, the side that was flipped over, and I glued it down on the inside of the frame for the window. And then some spots right here where it, you know, because it flips over and it leaves a gap, I cut a strip and I glued that in its place. The idea is to make a complete seal out of the mosquito netting material. and I let it air dry. And once it's dry, you can actually open and close this window like normal, but when you open it, it's got this mosquito netting in here to keep the mosquitoes out. And I did that for both sides of the window. You can see here, it's kind of ugly here with that coloring. That's why I would use black next time instead of that E6000 or whatever it is. I just use black silicone or some kind of black goop. So it's got mosquito netting on both sides there, and that allows me to keep the windows completely open. That does several things. One, it lets air blow through. If I'm parked so that air is blowing this way, it actually blow through here and circulate, okay, throughout the interior. The problem is it'll blow in the rear. You need to have it able to vent out the front. So when I go to sleep, I actually roll down the front window a little bit. I roll it down about an inch, not this much. I actually leave a gap that's smaller than this. This is about 2 inches, but I usually leave a gap about an inch or so wide along the top right there. And that way air can blow out. Now, you might be wondering about putting mosquito netting on this front part, okay? If you are parked in the middle of nowhere, like where there are mosquitoes, I would recommend doing that because otherwise you have mosquitoes coming in on this side, so the netting in the back doesn't do anything. And to cover this side, what you can do, what I did for a while was I took mosquito netting and I just put it over, I don't know what I did with the piece I had, but I put it over this entire door, okay, and made like a casing for the window. And I just had it stick down a little bit down here, and then kind of like, you know, like a sock for the door. So you're basically making a shape of mosquito netting that's the same as the shape of the window but bigger, and covering both the front and the back. And then you just slip it on over the window. And then to seal it off a little bit better on the bottom here, I put down magnets. The problem is, even with that kind of seal, believe it or not, mosquitoes and bugs would actually crawl up underneath the mosquito netting and still come through. So it doesn't stop all the bugs from coming in, but it stops a lot of them. Okay, so you can do that if you're parked somewhere where there's mosquitoes, which means you're probably out in the boonies. Now, most of my camping was done in cities, so it turned out I didn't really need the mosquito netting up front here, so I would just leave the gap, and mosquitoes never bothered me. Because in the cities, they tend to spray for mosquitoes. Now, if you're doing complete city camping, you might not even need this back mosquito netting. This had been installed because initially I was planning on parking mostly in the boonies, out in the middle of nowhere, where there might be mosquitoes. And I did have the mosquito netting covering the front window. At least one, if not both front windows. But I ended up not using that. So this mosquito netting here is pretty redundant. I do not normally open the rear hatch when I sleep, unless I'm like out on the beach or something and just taking a nap. Like right now, if I was taking a little nap, I would leave it open like this and just kind of lay down and chill. You're like, well, won't the cops bother you or anything? Nah, they tend to leave you alone unless they think you're actually camping out here. Just tell them you're laying down taking a rest, You're allowed to do that. This is a park. As long as it don't look like you're camping out here. But I will do that at the beach. I open it up like this. I have both doors and windows open to stay cool. Okay, but the biggest tip I could probably make for you, though, is you really don't want to spend a lot of time in the van during the daytime because it's hot. Without running AC, the vehicle gets really hot. You can see temperature is finally starting to cool down, but it still says 90 degrees over here. So it's only gone down a little bit. And outside, it's about 80 degrees. So it's only about 10, 12 degrees difference. But it's still hotter inside the vehicle than outside. And the reason for that is this. The vehicle is made of metal. And metal attracts and holds heat. So to try to control that heat, my recommendation is to try to pick a light colored vehicle like white. My vehicle is blue, which attracts a lot of heat. And if you were following the series in the very beginning, I had thought of making a hat system for little blue too to try to control the temperature. That was a failed experiment in the sense that it didn't work. what I did was I took the window shade, that Reflectix window shade, like something, well, not this kind, but the silver ones, the bubble wrap ones, and I put it on the roof of my vehicle. Okay, so the roof of my vehicle was silver, and when the heat hit it, it bounced off, which is great, right? And you would think that would work, but the problem is this: any metal that you have exposed at all, okay, will take the heat and conduct it to the part that's underneath the shade. Metal is conductive, so unless you cover up all of the metal on your car, even if you have parts of it that are exposed and other parts that are covered, the parts that are covered will get hot, just like the parts that are exposed. The part that is covered will not get as hot as fast as the part that is exposed. But like when I had it covered, I didn't have the entire roof covered. I only had it like from here, from this part on back. So this part was left exposed. And when the heat came and heated up this part, the heat radiated out and went underneath. So that experiment to make a hat for Little Blue 2, and the reason I did something like that was I was still trying to retain stealth. I wanted the vehicle to look stealth. And several things happened with that I'll point out. One, it didn't work because the heat would still heat up this part and then radiate out to the rest of the roof, causing the whole roof to be hot. And then, of course, it radiates out through the bottom here. So that's why the temperature in the vehicle right now is taking quite a while to cool down, because the metal here on this vehicle is hot. Like when I touch this is hot. So the hat system did not work. Trying to make portable shade for your vehicle, it only works if you shade the entire car so that all of the car is covered. If any parts of your car is exposed, it's going to gather heat and radiate it to the part that is covered. Okay. The other problem with with using one of those Reflectix silver ones, the shiny ones that I put on here, was when I went out to the compound with it, the police were on me within like a few minutes of me driving in there and parking, because that stuff acts like a mirror. Okay, sunlight was hitting it, was coming down and hitting the Reflectix and bouncing off into the sky. So any airplane or helicopter or whatever they were using to survey the area saw my bright silver mirror shining up at them, signaling them that I was there. And they sent a ranger and a police officer out to talk to me. And that's how I found out that there were homeless people living out in the compound. The police don't really seem to care.